Everyone, I'm Leontine Segal, and today I will give you an overview of my PhD research work dedicated to the development of a statistical method to infer the kinematics and the chemical and physical state of the Horsehead Nebula in the Orion B cloud, and this from the analysis of multiple molecular lines. So our motivation for studying giant molecular clouds such as Orion B come from the fact that it's within this kind of object that stars are formed. And to characterize the processes involved in star formation, our goal is to estimate the gas property. So, namely, the volume density of the most abundant species in the cloud, the molecular hydrogen H2, and also its kinematic temperature. But this while keeping in mind that we cannot go out there to check afterwards the accuracy of our measurement. So this is from this lack of ground truth that arise the need to develop statistical tools to indeed estimate this parameter, this parameter of interest, but also to provide the quantification of the correspondence, the corresponding accuracy that we can have in our measure if we want to interpret them. So I will present to you here the method that we develop and adjust to the Horsehead Nebula observation before showing you some results that we obtain about the gas state. So first of all, the nebulae like the Horsehead are dark in the optical range. And one can only guess the presence of the cloud because it absorbs the photons that are coming from its background. But it's in the radio domain that we actually measure more photons, more information from the gas itself. And not from the molecular hydrogen directly, but from the other species that are located in the cloud, but in much smaller abundances. So this is why the Horsehead was observed with the 13-meter radio telescope over a wide radio bandwidth, enabling us to detect around 20 different molecular species. And among them, we find the most abundant CO isotopologue and also 2 isotopologue of HO+. And each of these species at its own condition of formation, of destruction, but also molecular transition as their own condition of cooling and excitation. So in other terms, each of these molecular line can be seen as a proxy of a typical gas environment. So if we look, for instance, to H13CO+, we see that the line is mostly sensitive to the most chilled region in the cloud, the densest and coldest one that we call dense core. And those regions are very interesting. We are very interested in this region because it's the place where the next generation of star will form. And conversely, we see that the emission map of 12CO is much more extended, which suggesting that the receive photon come from the very outskirts of the cloud from a much warmer and diffuse gas, since it's constantly irradiated by UV photon. And between these two opposite behavior, we found a molecular line whose the emission seem coming from different depth along the line of sight. So when we look in the same time all this molecular line, it seems to tell us that the property of the gas are changing along the line of sight, but all this information are mixed. So in this work, what we try to do is to find a way to unmix this information and more importantly, to extract from it the one coming from the most hidden layer of the cloud, where the environment is conducive to form stars. So all the results that I will show you was obtained by simultaneously observe all these 5 species, but also the second transition of the 13CO and C18O line. So let's try to illustrate the method that we developed to analyze, first of all, a single line of sight. So the 4 spectra that you are seeing here, among the 7 molecular lines that we try to characterize, are coming from the same pixel in the dataset, in the Horsehead Nebula. And we start by assuming the fact that the profile of molecular line depends on the state of the gas in which the molecules are located. So namely depend on the kinematic temperature, the density, but also depend on the column density of molecular species. So a priori, we have as many to estimate as we observe different molecular species, unless you have a priori knowledge to inject about relative abundance to make decrease the number of unknowns that we try to estimate. And we have also kinematics, so it depends on centroid velocity and also the line width of the molecular line, so the FWHM. And to relate all these parameters that we are looking for to the spectra that we are measure, we are looking for an explicit function, so a model that enabling us to simultaneously reproduce all these molecular lines. Also, even though we saw earlier that it seems that the photon does not come from the same gas environment along the line of sight. So to take account of potential heterogeneous condition along the line of sight, we model each sight line has been composed of two different gas environments. So you have an inner layer surrounded by an envelope. And each of these gas environments is characterized by its own vector of parameter that I previously list. But from the observer point of view, the photon can have been emitted from 4 different sources. You have the foreground of the envelope, the inner layer, the background of the envelope, and then from the CMB or continuum sources. And to derive the quantity of photon emitted by a given sources, we use the radiative transfer equation, which is a balance between the quantity of photon emitted by the gas, characterized by the excitation temperature of the line, and between the quantity of photon that can have been absorbed by the gas layer in itself when the photons are traveling in the gas, characterized by the opacity of the line. And to derive these two require radiative quantity to infer the intensity of the line, we use the radiative transfer code RADEC. And then to derive the total quantity of photon that indeed escape from the cloud, we extend this equation by taking into account the fact that photon can be absorbed indeed by the gas that emitted them, but also by the layer of gas just between the observer and the gas. So the goal at this stage is to find the set of parameters enabling us to best fit the model to the observation according a given criteria, and we choose to optimize the likelihood. The challenge here in this model fitting optimization is the fact that corresponding the model that we construct, it's boiled down to looking for a solution in a 40-dimensional space. So to tackle this issue and to make converge our estimator, we did, first of all, we explored the solution space with a random walk, and after we improve the accuracy of the estimation with the gradient descent. So yes, at this stage, we estimate a set of parameters enabling us to reconstruct the line, the total intensity, but we also able to decompose this intensity to see in where come from the different photons along the different layer that we are defined. So by doing this, we saw that the different species show a very different behavior. For instance, main of the intensity of 12CO is coming from the very foreground of the cloud. While in the case of C18O, for instance, you see that most of the line come from the inner layer. So to draw a more robust conclusion of this kind of behavior, we actually iterate these exact same processes, but over all the field of view in the Orosen Nebula. And so that we can derive map of estimation parameter. So the map that you are showing here correspond to the contribution to the total flux that we reconstruct of each of the different layers of the cloud for the 12CO line and the C18O line. And those maps allow us to, first of all, validate some intuition that we have earlier, meaning that some species, molecular line, are more likely to probe a typical depth, a typical region in the cloud than other, but also to quantify this empirical behavior. So for instance, when you look at the C18O line, you saw that more than 85% of the photon, of the total photon received come from indeed the very foreground layer of the cloud. And as more as you go deep into the cloud, this contribution decreasing. But in the case of C18O, it's not at all the same behavior that we saw. We see that more the half come indeed from the inner layer, but the envelope layer, both the foreground and the background, have a significant weight and moreover a very symmetrical, a very balanced contribution. So let's see the map of estimated parameters that allow us to reconstruct those emission maps. So what you see here is the estimated volume density and kinetic temperature of the envelope layer and in the core layer. And what we can see is that in the envelope layer, we saw that the estimated condition of the gas was quite homogeneous, made of diffuse gas, so between 10 power 3, 10 power 4, and warm gas between 20 and 40 K. But in the case of the core layer, it was much more difficult to see what happened, because you can see that the condition change much more from a pixel to another. So to make easier the interpretation and to try to understand what's happened, we check on the visual extension that is somehow proportional to the total matter along the line of sight and also the temperature of the dust. And by doing that, we saw that the region where we estimated a higher density, the highest volume density, so between 10 power 5, 10 power 6, also match with a region where the visual extension was also the highest. And those regions match where we actually we located the very dense core region in the HOSED. And moreover, in one of these two dense cores, we saw that the estimation of the kinetic temperature drop around 12 K, which correspond also to the temperature measured from the dust. So at this stage, it seems that the model managed to unmix the information coming from two different gas environments along the line of sight, a more diffuse and warmer gas that hide a more dense and cold gas phases. So we was very also curious about the kinematics of the HOSED. So we look at the centroid velocity. So you seeing here the map estimated in the inner layer and in the envelope layer. And we find two main results about the kinematic of the HOSED. The first one is that these two maps show a velocity gradient from the north to the south, where the line is more blue shifted to red shifting, meaning that in the north, the gas get closer to the observer, but in the opposite, in the south of the HOSED, you saw that the gas is moving away from the observer. And actually, this very similar overall motion of the gas was observed and noted by Illy-Blanc et al. And the author interpret this motion as being a rotation around the pillar axis. But the second result was, moreover, to find again this overall rotation, we noticed that the rotation was not quite the same in the inner layers than the outer layer. So when we look at the relative motion between these two layers, we find that the outer layer was approximately and overall more redshift by around 0.25 km per second. And we interpret overall the rotation, the fact that it seems that the matter in the envelope is accreted to the one in the inner layer. So last result that I want to share to you is about the chemistry in the nebula. And through the case of the C18O species, where we measure a depletion at the highest heavy regime and the coldest region in the cloud. So what we find is, first of all, we compute the total column density of the species by taking into account the contribution of all layers in the cloud. And then we derive the abundance of the species relatively to H2. And then by doing that, we see that it appears some striking feature in the offset, and that appear at region where we identify where there is dense core. So to try to quantify what happened, we show this exact mean abundance relative in versus the visual extension, and this is in log scale. And by doing this, we saw that at low heavy regime, as more the density is increasing, you can see an increasing of the abundance of the species that we interpret as being as more as the gas is dense and more the species is self-shielded from photodissociation processes. So there is more and more species. But at very high heavy regime, you see a drop, a total fall of these abundances. And since according to what we saw just earlier, this very high heavy regime also corresponds to region where we estimated that the kinetic temperature dropped to 12 K, which correspond to expected and conducive environment where the molecular species can be captured, be trapped onto ice mantle of dust. So yeah, to conclude, I wanted to emphasize 2 points. The first one is that we start by saying that we wanted to make to improve the description along the line of sight, so along a depth in the cloud of what happened. Improve this description of what happened along the line of sight. But all the result and interpretation that I give was possible because we actually did over all the field of view. So I want to show the importance of combine what we can learn about following the frequency axis, but also in the spatial information. We have to combine the both to get a better understanding and feeling of what happened in the cloud. So when we developed this method, we take a special care to be actually able to process a huge data set, to derive map of estimation. And the second point is the fact that I illustrated you this method on the Rosen Nebula because, as you can show, the object was already studied by a lot of team, so that it was very useful for us to check and to compare the result with this result. But actually, we have in mind when we develop this method so that we can generalize the analysis to any giant molecular cloud. So we take also a special care to make this fitting process as much as generalized and more specifically, following the molecular line that you are observing, you can actually suit any number of layers along the line of sight to model a more complex gradient of the gas properties. And yes, all the procedure will be soon in open access. And I just want to finish about the next step. We currently work to generalize the model to be able to fit multi-velocity components along the line of sight. So thank you so much for your attention.